Hello, friends, and welcome to episode number 60 of Nostalgia Talk. Dear God, that makes me worry about turning 60 years old. Anyway, not the point. I'm 24 now, so wouldn't really make that big of a difference. But anyway, I'm James. Welcome to the Big 60. Before I introduce the guest, I just want to say a little something kind of serious. If you're Canadian, like me, we just lost a Canadian icon, and I'm sure a lot of you guys know who that is, the one and only Gordon Lightfoot. Now, I've been a huge Gordon Lightfoot fan most of my life. He was my first concert. It wasn't like when I saw Simple Plan, Backstreet Boys, 98 Degrees, Virginia to Vegas, The Offspring. Like it wasn't Avril Lavigne, The Beaches. Like it wasn't loud and hype. I think the loudest person was someone behind me screaming to turn it up. But as I got older, I started listening to Gordon Lightfoot more. We would be at my grandfather's cottage and we'd listen to his albums on our phones. So yeah, I was a big Gordon Lightfoot fan. His words will never die. So anyway, now moving on from that, for the 60th episode of Nostalgia Talk, and thank you all for your patience, by the way. I know that it's been a little while since I've done this. I've been busy with a hell of a lot of other things. But joining me for episode number 60 is Bradley Freeman Jr.
Hello, everybody. It's great to be here.
It's great to have you here. Now, for anybody who doesn't
Thanks.
know, Bradley is a puppeteer, another one of those puppeteer guys. He is
Another one
on
of those guys.
Yeah, he's on Sesame Street. He's one of the newest puppeteers, actually, performing some of the newest additions to the Muppet cast, Tamir and Wes. And in
Hmm.
addition to that, is also a puppeteer for the Muppets. And when I say the Muppets, I mean the Muppets franchise. People don't really know that Sesame Street and the Muppets are owned by two different companies. But he's done TV appearances for them, web appearances, and also the brand new Muppets series, the Muppets Mayhem, now streaming on Disney Plus. Go watch it. Bradley, it's good to have you here.
It's great to be here. You got all the plugs out of the way. Fantastic. Thank you.
Well, we'll
Oh
we'll
man.
keep we'll keep plugging them as we go through.
Okay, cool.
Let's start by talking about how you first became introduced to puppetry. Like, what was your first introduction to it?
I think my first real introduction, of course, was Sesame Street because I would watch it as a child. I think as most of us do. Elmo, Cinderelmo, Elmo Palooza, Muppets.
Love those ones.
Those are great, so those I just sort of there was something about them, and I'm sure you know this, but the tangibility factor of the Muppets, of these characters, the fact that they're real and you can really go up and hug them and talk to them and stuff. There was something about that I didn't understand as a kid. Like I knew I liked it, but I didn't know why.
Hmm.
I knew I liked even like mascots, like Barney, who is, well, he's a puppet. I think he's a puppet, but
Yep.
he's just different from the way that we usually do it with our hand. But even seeing him, like you could tell that he was real, and all of these characters were just like really there, and I was chasing after that feeling. I loved that feeling of something just I could tell that it was like handcrafted to be in that environment. Um, I was just chasing after it, and so I would any puppetry thing that I could find, or anything with practical sets or practical effects. Those Anytime I found a DVD that had something that looked like it was real on it, including like stop motion stuff, I was like,
Hmm.
boom, I want that. That's what I'm gonna have. And I remember on something that I had, it might have honestly been like Kermit's Swamp Years or like a Muppets Wizard of Oz DVD that I had, where in the trailers leading up to the movie, there was like an announcement for Muppet Show season 1 on DVD, and I was like, I need to have that. Like I need to have that. This looks amazing. And so they were selling them at Walmart actually, and so I, with my grandparents, insisted upon when we were at Walmart, I need to go to the DVD section and get this DVD, and it was like 20 or 30 bucks or something, which is kind of expensive for a DVD, but it was,
Jeez.
I know, and that was like still, this was close to 20 years ago now. And Oh, also, we're the same age. Did you know that? You
Oh, I
said you
did
were
not
24?
actually. Wow.
Yeah, you're 24. I'm also 24.
So
So this
so
was
seems like you and I grew up in the same era. I
We
love it.
grew up in the same era, so we're gonna know a lot of the same things here.
Okay,
Um,
cool.
so I had Muppet Show season. So I bought it. It was the 4 disc DVD set of Muppet Show season 1. And I remember watching it and feeling. Actually, I told Dave Goles this because this is specifically. I remember Gonzo, and the original Gonzo. You remember how weird that original Gonzo was?
With
He
the
was
sad
very.
look, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He looked really sad, and he had that like angular look, and there was something about it, and it was like older footage, and it was like it was so exactly what I was looking for that it was like unsettling, and I remember being a little bit scared of it, but like I can't take my eyes off of this. It's so weird, and Gonzo scared me specifically. But like it wasn't like a scary scary thing. It was just like a what is this? Like what is I love this so much. I'm scared of how much I love it. Um and then I remember watching like bonus features and especially like online there were a couple of people. It was Grant Pachoco actually with the Jim Henson Company had a small, I think they're still up, a very small course on like how puppetry worked. I remember seeing Of Muppets and Men, like that classic Muppet documentary that we all love. um, Several of the bonus features on the Muppet Show I think had some stuff. Kermit Swamp Ears behind the scenes with Joe the Armadillo played by Joey Mazzarino taking us back into like what it looked like to work at the Muppets, and that was the most like HD thing I'd ever seen. And you could see like Kermit, and he had like the sleeve that came down, and
Yep.
all these different like awesome. I was like, oh, this is amazing. I wanted to do it so bad. So on those videos, I figured out how they did it, which is they had a camera up here and they had a monitor down here, and you would pick your hand up into the air and do it. Like you'd grab a puppet and you would just do it. And so that's what I started teaching myself how to do. Basically, I found an old TV monitor, an old TV camera, old TV monitor that my grandma would use like on road trips to watch her soap operas on VHS that she would record.
Hmm.
She wasn't using it anymore, so I put it in my room. I connected it to a camcorder that my dad had gotten me, and I started practicing. And I was lip syncing to Fraggle Rock, because I had Fraggle Rock on DVD because they were selling the Fraggle Rock toys at Target. There was like a Wembley and a Gobo and a Red, and I had all three of those, and they each came with a DVD showcasing those characters, like best episodes of the series. And so I memorized those episodes. I memorized the episodes from Muppet Show. I would have like Elmo Palooza and stuff, and I would just like lip sync to it and practice and practice and practice and try my best. And yeah, that was basically the start of it. That's how I got started. Was just being obsessed with it, not knowing what it was, and then realizing this seems like the coolest thing ever, and then just wanting to do it so badly. Yeah.
So you said that you really liked sets. Did you ever do school musicals?
Yeah,
Okay.
I did. I did. It wasn't until high school that I realized I really wanted to do it, because I was always more like in band. Um, so I was a percussionist for a really. I'm still a percussionist basically, but I was a percussionist for a while, and my first 2 years of high school I was in the band, but I knew that I really wanted to do theater. Well, I knew I wanted to do puppets, but aside from that, they didn't have a puppetry elective, so I chose the theater elective. And I remember even bringing like puppets with me on the band, like in the band trips and stuff, and I would have puppets, and we would just be stupid, and it was fun.
Well,
But
those would make good YouTube skits, puppets take on the world.
but yeah, 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 we would just do like little travel things and stuff. I took one to Disney World one time.
Oh, that's cool.
It was fun, I guess. It was cool. And so like I would just bring like my theatrics into theater all the time, into band all the time, and then I realized like no, I really know that I want to do theater. Like I know that I want to be a puppeteer. I know that if I don't do that, then I at least want to sort of like act on stage. Um, so let me do that. So then I joined theater, and the first thing that I did was I played Olaf in. It wasn't a Frozen musical, but we had like a special event with our school district where like a high school would host as these characters, and then all these other schools would bring their band and their dance team and their cheer team. So like every school would bring a certain part. And this one year, my high school was the theater team, so we were the hosts as characters in between every act that every other school would do. And they bought this, or they rented this costume called Silly Snowman, not legally called Olaf. And I was inside this mascot costume, and I would do like an Olaf voice. and that was my first time on stage ever, and it was super fun because I was hidden, like I got to hide my face, which is great. I got to do a voice, which is something I love to do. I got to be the announcer, so I got to do like two different voices, and it was so funny because it was me. I'm like sitting backstage, and I'm in a snowman suit from like the shoulders down, and I'm like, "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome, blah blah blah." And then I would put the head on and be like, "Oh, hi everybody," and I would be like the all out voice and stuff. It was so much fun. So that was the first thing that I ever did. We did a bunch of those shows for all these elementary kids, and then I did Aladdin, where I played Aladdin.
Nice.
And usually for a lot of those theatrical shows, I ended up just sort of becoming like assistant director, where I would help to, like you were saying, yeah, I would design the sets, and I would help to design some of the special effects, and I would get all of the music together, and I would get, like, if we were using projection, I would put, because I was a video editor as well, and
Nice.
I would do like the projection and stuff. So if we needed like a starry background, I would put together a video that would loop and show everybody how to use it, and we would figure out whatever programs were needed so that it didn't look like cheesy, and like click alt to exit was like all over the place, like just making sure that that didn't happen, and having like a good show. So yeah, I did do musicals. I did several in high school, and also in community theater. Yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
So what was your first ever like puppeteering gig?
Like via, like, for television or for
Like
like,
professionally, yeah.
oh gosh, professionally. Let's count professional as the first thing I got paid for. Because I do have like a professional amateur thing, which was back in my hometown. I did a little like show for the local school district that lasted all of one episode. It was very bad, but it was good. It was fun.
Oh,
It was very fun.
okay.
But my first professional thing that I got paid for, I did a community theater production of Avenue Q, where I played Rod. We didn't do like the dual roles, so I just played Rod, but I was also like the puppet captain of the show. So the director would give their notes,
Hmm.
and then I would tell them how to translate those notes to the puppet. So like he would say, "Kate Monster, I need you to deliver this. I need to see that there's hope in your eyes, but I want to know that you are sad, but I want to see that there's hope." And I'd be like, "Okay, here's how that works with a puppet. You can't really show that with, you don't have eyebrows, you don't have anything except for like a neck, and that's about it. Like that's about the amount of movement that you have. It's also for the stage, so a lot of it is going to translate to body posture, and your vocal performance, and your facial performance next to the puppet is going to inform the audience's interpretation of the emotion that you're feeling," which was like the lucky thing about doing Avenue Q. So yeah, I would say that was my first professional gig, which happened after I had done the Sesame workshop, the Sesame Puppeteer workshop in 2018, which is why people took me seriously. They were like, "Oh, he's been to Sesame Street. Let's pay him to tell us how to do puppets." Uh, so yeah, that was I think my first professional puppetry gig. Yeah.
Okay. So your start with Sesame Street was through a puppeteering workshop, and then suddenly we get introduced to Wes. How did you hear about that?
So that was actually kind of a fun story.
Okay.
So I did the workshop in 2018, and I met several good friends of mine that are still friends to this day. Sebastiano Ricci and Brandon Smith are two of the people that I still stay very much in touch with, along with several other people in that workshop, like Stacy Weingarten was there, and gosh, Kelsey Ann Brady was there, Clayton, a bunch of people, a bunch of super cool people. I'm gonna forget everybody, and so um, we had a great time, and we stayed in touch. And when COVID hit, um, we started a little group chat with four of us puppeteers, just chatting. It was somebody to be social with, over the quarantine, and we we enjoyed it, and we were talking. And this was already, you know, workshop was 2018, COVID was 2020, so it had already been 2 years. You know, a couple of people had little auditions here with Sesame, but I hadn't heard back from them at all. I had sort of stayed in touch with Marty Robinson, over email, just here and there. Stephanie DeBruzzo as well, but mostly with Marty, we had a lot more back and forth.
Hmm.
Um,
Both two
and
great guys.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful, amazing people. they've been, not only then but today as well, they have been just some of my just rocks in the puppetry world. People that I can go to and that help me and that encourage me and that tell me, you know, when I can do it and what I shouldn't do and what I can do. It's just so encouraging and wonderful and smart and wonderful people. I can't say enough good things about them. And so Marty and I had talked a little bit, and then we sort of fell off. I didn't really, the back and forth sort of just, like I hadn't responded to something, and then it was a couple months back and forth, and so, you know, and then it had been like a year and a half, and we hadn't really talked to each other, and I remember having this like epiphany in the car. I was driving, I don't know, maybe to Walmart or something exciting like that. And I was like, you know what? I may not be able to make it to Sesame Street, and that's okay. Sesame Street is like the NBA of puppetry. You know, like there are so many people, who want to get in, and there's only this many people who are actually going to make it in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just like, you know, that's okay. I'm already on a list over there. Like, you know, they taught me how to do it. I got to meet those people, right? Like, I'm a little more than just a fan now, and that's great. That's great. And no matter what, I'm gonna love puppetry, so I'm gonna find something to do with it. I'll work. I can work at a small studio. I can do little side bits. I can do stuff on my own at home, and I'll be able to like raise a family and have friends and do whatever job I need to do that's creative on the side to help provide for me being able to do puppetry as my passion. But it doesn't have to be Sesame for me to be happy. I remember just thinking that. It doesn't have to be. It would be great if it was, but it doesn't have to be. And then, you know, a couple nights later, I was talking to my friends on FaceTime, and I was like, you know, I think Sesame forgot about me. You know, they haven't asked me to audition or anything, but that's okay, because I know that I can be happy either way. And they were like, that's a great way to look at it. I was like,
Yeah,
I think
it
so
really
too.
is.
I was like, I think so too. It brought me a lot of peace in that moment. You know, I was like, I'll be okay. It's hard to do. You know, there's how many thousands of puppeteers in the world? There's only like 30 who are on Sesame, and then like even less so that actually get to work with like the Disney Muppets. So I was like, I'm not gonna. Why strive for that? Let me just do what I love to do and be happy with it. And so we have that FaceTime talk, and then we hang up the phone. And I wake up the next morning to an email from Marty Robinson saying, "Hey, how you doing?" I was like, "What? Did y'all text him or something? What is going on? What a weird coincidence." He said, "How are your puppeteer chops?" And I'm like, "Oh, actually, I'm great. Thanks for asking. I had just finished making a demo reel of my puppetry, because I had done like, you know, little studio work here or there and demonstrated a couple different characters, and I was like, you know what, it's COVID, I have nothing to do, let me put together all these videos and make a demo so that I can send out to random little studios in Texas or something to see if anybody wants to hire me." And I was like, "Hey, I'm doing super well, thanks for asking. I actually just made this demo reel. Funny that you're texting me now, or that you're emailing me now. If you want to check it out and critique it, let me know if this will ever get me hired anywhere." And he was like, "Sure, I'll check it out first thing in the morning, because I have to go to Sesame and stuff. So I'll check." He was like, "I'm going to sleep right now, but I'll check it out in the morning." I said, "Okay." So I wake up again the next morning to like 3 different emails, and it says, "Hey, I really liked your video. I'm sending it over to Matt Vogel to watch it." And I'm like, "No, just tell me what's wrong with it. I don't want him to see it. He's like, "Hey, Matt Vogel loved your video as well. We're sending it over to the producers." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, okay." And then another one that said, "Where do you live again?" And I'm like, "I live wherever you want me to live." You know?
That's a good
And
answer.
yeah, and so it was just a crazy like day to be getting all those emails, and I was like, "Well, you know, I'm here and blah blah blah," and he said, "Be expecting an email from the producers shortly." I was like, "Oh God, oh my God." He said, "We have a couple of characters that I think you should audition for." I was like, "Whoa." So then I get an email from the producers saying, you know, "We'd like you to audition for these 2 characters, Wes and Elijah." It was a dual audition, so we were auditioning for both.
Okay.
And I they were like, we want you to send in this video, and sent in this video, and they're like, so we're gonna ask you to send in another video of doing something different. I was like, okay, here's something different. And then they were like, okay, now we're gonna have the official audition. It's gonna be with Matt and Marty and several of the producers. It is scheduled. Does this time and day work for you? I was like, yes. So then it was scheduled. I was ready to go. And I think it was like December 3rd or something of 2019. Of 2020, sorry. And it didn't feel real until I was sitting at my desk with my computer, and it said, waiting for host to invite you into the Zoom, and it was like the Sesame Workshop logo. And I was like, oh my God, I think I'm auditioning for Sesame Street right now. Because everything else was like, I might as well have been talking to Siri. Like, it was all just over the phone. So it could have been this elaborate prank, because again, it all happened the night after I told my friends. So I'm like, oh my God, they created a fake Marty Robinson email and a fake, I'm like, this could all just be a prank. And then like they pop up onto my screen, and I'm just so like nervous. I'm like, oh my gosh, what is going on here? And Marty Robinson looks at me, and he hadn't seen me with any facial hair before. And he says, when did you grow that stupid thing? And I was like, okay, good. I'm at home. I feel at home now. And then immediately I was like, oh, I'm relaxed. That's great. Oh my gosh. And so then I did the audition. It was nerve-wracking. They had sent me a puppet, actually. They sent me one of the workshop puppets from Sesame. And I remember taking all of these pictures because I was like, I'm never going to get to see a real Sesame Workshop puppet again. So like I needed to take all these pictures of it, and I have these really ridiculous detailed pictures of that puppet. Auditioned, and then the Zoom call was over. And I was like, okay, what now? Because then you're just waiting, right? Like after an audition, you know the feeling. You just wait. What do you do? What do you do? You just wait. So your stomach's in knots, and you're like, you try not to think about it. And then I'm like overthinking every little thing that I did. And I remember asking Marty, like, hey, I know I'm not supposed to ask, but was that okay? Did I do okay? I was so nervous. I didn't know what to do. He said,
there's nothing wrong with touching base, you know?
That's all I wanted to do. I was just I didn't know what to do with myself, you know, because there was two thoughts going in my head, right? Of, on one hand, your life stays the same, and that's really okay. On the other hand, you get this, and your life potentially changes forever. Either one of those outcomes is fine. One is a lot of pressure to think about, and the other one is just okay. Just okay. There's nothing to be sad about. Mm-hmm. So, he said something vague, and then said the producers will be in touch with you soon to let you know the outcome. I said, okay. So then a couple of days later, I'm at Target, and I had been checking my email religiously. Like I had just been checking over and over and over and over. And I get an email, and it says, hey Bradley, thanks for taking the time to audition for Wes. And I was like, oh, nobody starts a congratulations email with thanks for taking the time. I didn't get it. And I'm like, you know what? You've already prepped yourself. That's okay. It's all right. So like my heart sank a little bit, but I'm like, that's okay. It's fine. It's fine. And it said, guess what? Period. We'd like to ask you to audition, or we'd like to ask you to play Wes. Let me know if you accept the part. And I was like, what? Like, I had to read it over like 7 times because I was like, is this real? Did this actually happen? And yeah, apparently it did actually happen. And so I emailed her back, and I was like, yes, I accept the part. And then I pressed send on the email, and then I looked back at my email and I saw that it was blank because I was so excited I didn't actually touch any of the letters on my phone. So I sent another email saying, yes, I do accept the part. And then I sent her a text. I was like, I just want to double down and make sure that you know that I accept the part, because I was like, then they're going to realize they made a mistake and they offered it to the wrong person, so I have to accept it. No take backsies. You can't take it back anymore. So then I accepted the part. I remember like hyperventilating in the middle of Target, just being like, oh my gosh, I think I'm on Sesame Street. Like I think I did it. We were Christmas shopping. It was a great present for me.
Yeah,
Um,
I was gonna say.
and and so I was with my aunt and my grandma, and I was like, I think I got the part. I hadn't told many people about the audition. Um, so I was like, I think I got the part, and I was like, I look at the email, right? That's what this says, right? And they were like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And so then we all just like hugged and cried for a second. And I called my mom. Well, I called my mom immediately. I was like, I got the audition, and then I called my dad, and my grandma gave me a list of like, here, call all of these people now. And I felt weird. I felt so weird calling all these people because it was like it felt like a lie. Like it didn't feel. It felt so unreal that it felt like I was lying to everybody, and
Right.
that I was gonna have to mentally keep tabs on everyone that I called so that I could then apologize and say sorry. That was a big mistake. I shouldn't have called you and set your expectations or anything. But no, it actually happened. It was actually pretty cool.
Cool.
Um, so yeah, that's how I got the part.
Mm. Now, for any of the listeners who don't know which character Wes is, again, one of the newest additions. As Bradley was saying, he auditioned for Wes and Elijah. Elijah would be Wes's father, who's played by
Correct.
my good buddy Chris Hayes.
Chris
Uh,
Hayes.
yep. And like there's a ton of viral videos where we get to see the stuff that Elijah and Wes get into. One
Yeah.
actually that's gotten a lot of media attention, and I really like it, would be where Elijah takes Wes to go get his hair cut.
That's one of my favorites. You want to know something fun about that?
Let's hear it.
Uh, that was my pitch. That was
Oh,
my
wow.
yeah, that was my idea. We had a meeting, just basically a brainstorming session.
Hmm.
Because I was like, I feel like we should be more involved in the brainstorming stuff because because we know the characters really well.
Yeah, that
And
Marty Robinson and I were talking about that not too long ago about
yes,
getting the puppeteers involved because of course they would know the characters, and they should really give their ideas to the writers, and a lot of the time they still do, and they even did back
yeah,
then apparently.
yeah, that's exactly right. So we're sort of getting back to that idea of being a bit more because it's Sesame is such a big organization. Sometimes it's hard to communicate with everyone's so busy. So
Mhm.
sometimes it's like we're all in our own specific lane, and it gets hard to communicate and really have that like synergy. And so we've been doing a lot better with that and having some meetings and I remember telling Ashmu, one of our awesome producers, not only on the show but also with Sesame Street and Communities, and I was like, I feel like it would be great if you guys like if you were to just tell us, hey, we're wanting to focus on this subject, right? We're trying to focus on bonding.
Mhm.
So then what if we come in and just like have a brainstorming session and it comes from the people who play the characters saying, hey, I feel like this would be a really West way to bond and it could be like this. And then they give it to the writers and then we have like a very creative beginning to it. It's true to the character. And then when we get on set and we have our little notes, it's like very minor. Just like a really fun way to do it. So the barbershop video came from that brainstorming session and it was based on me just saying like I think it'd be really cool if Wes went to the barbershop. I remember doing that with my dad one time as like a bonding experience and
Mhm.
it was like sort of weird and uncomfortable because they have their own like culture there and I was so new to the culture there and I was like, there's two things I really want from this video. One is to show, the culture of the barber shop, right? Like they are your friends. The barber is your friend. You develop this community in that room. You know everybody, your friends. People just go and sit in there and watch TV because it's just it's a communal place to be, especially in like New York and that area. That's just the kind of place it is,
Yeah.
and that's one of the things. And the other thing was like I really want to see Wes with an afro. I just really want to see him. I want to see him throw out. I want to see what that looks like. And it was adorable. It was
Mhm.
so much fun. And we actually they made a couple of wigs for him. One was sort of like a half cut, and then the other one was like a full wig. Maybe it was yeah. So there was like a wig that we couldn't cut, and then a wig that was actually there for Chad. I remember his name being, but for the barber to actually cut like with the scissors and the razor and stuff, so
So
that we
the
could
so
have
the
like real
actor's name
hair.
was Chad?
You know what? Don't quote me yet. I need to make sure because I feel bad. He's such a nice guy. Let me just make sure. Um, I think he probably has his own Muppet wiki page at this point. Actually, hold on. Uh, bar
Because I've just
Let me look
known him
this
as
up.
Fresh this whole time. Because
Yeah, Fresh. Yeah, yeah. Here he is. Yeah, Chad. Great.
cool.
Yes. Barbara
Mhm.
Fresh or something like that. Where'd he go?
Yeah.
He was in the Tony Awards. Look at that. Muppet
Mhm.
Wiki is awesome.
Oh yeah.
They
Props to
got
you
it.
guys at Muppet Wiki if you're listening.
Props to Muppet Wiki. They just know they know everything. They know things before I do. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Um.
So
Anyway,
was
so
so was
Chad,
it
he's a
your
great
idea
guy.
to have Roscoe come in and do Gordon?
No, that was just a pleasant surprise for all of us.
Oh
That
wow.
was just awesome. Noel McNeil directed that video, and I remember seeing in the script Gordon comes in when we did the read through, and I was like, no way, no way. And then he pops up on the Zoom, and we do the read through with it. And I'm like, oh, this is great. So then, yeah, we had Gordon come in because why not? Because why
Oh
not?
yeah.
Gordon lives there too. You know,
Hmm.
he not that he needs to go to the barber anymore, but that's a place that he used to hang out.
Yep.
And why not have him come in? So they brought Gordon in, brought Roscoe in. It was great, and it was so much fun, and it was so great working with Noel and being in that chair. It was such a fun little set and a great video. It was wholesome and it was great to play. So yeah, the barbershop video was a really. I didn't write it. I didn't write it at all. I don't
Right.
want to take credit for that. But it was just like it was just a great time. It
Mm.
was a really really good time.
And I can imagine how cool it must have been to have Roscoe there. Like he's not only one of
Yeah,
the original Sesame Street human cast members. I've talked to him a couple times. He's a cool guy too. He's
he's
so
just a cool guy.
yeah, down to earth and chill. That's the way I
Down to
always think of
earth,
him.
laid back, shy almost. He's sort of a soft spoken guy.
Yeah.
And that's what we were seeing, and it was just surreal. It was surreal because it was like I'm sitting here, as like with a puppet on my hand, and there's Roscoe behind me, like there's Gordon, right? Like that's Trash Gordon, like he's great. And I'm like, this is just it was surreal. Every once in a while you have those moments where you look up and you see Elmo, right? Like actually there, or
Yeah.
you look up and you see Big Bird, or the day when Snuffy was there, right?
Yeah.
Like just like because they're right there, they're real, and it's that feeling I was saying, where it's tangible. They are
Yeah.
actually right there. They're
Mm.
looking at you, they're talking to you, they're interacting with you. It's a magical feeling, and so it
Mm.
was a really really good day. Yeah.
I had a moment like that a couple of months ago while I was actually doing this podcast. I got
Oh,
one of
nice.
the OG Muppet performers to come on, Louise Gold.
Oh, Louise Gold. I haven't met
Yeah.
her yet.
Mm.
I've heard only wonderful things about her though.
She's hilarious. She is so funny. And
Oh
like
my gosh, yeah, I've
the
heard.
moment that I saw Louise Gold has entered the Zoom chat, I had that same
Yeah,
moment. Like this is unreal. I'm gonna be talking
yeah.
to somebody who was on the original Muppet Show. The only OG Muppet performers I've talked to her, and I've talked to Fran Brill on this podcast.
Oh, nice.
Hmm.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've yet to meet either of those people.
Well, oddly enough, this is episode number 60. Fran Brill came on for episode number 50.
Oh, really?
Hmm.
Oh my gosh. Well, look at that. I'll tell her that when we meet in person that we have this in common. We were both
You
we were both on
came
the
on
perfect
like
tens. Yeah. Yeah.
exactly, yeah. Mm. So
Oh, that's
talking
great.
about Roscoe and the original Sesame Street cast, that kind of makes me
Yeah.
wonder if you ever got to know Emilio or Bob.
No, I never got to meet them.
Okay, I didn't either,
Unfortunately, yeah,
but
but
I was very close with Emilio. We would talk online. I knew Bob a little
oh,
bit,
good.
but
Oh, that's good.
Emilio,
Yeah,
like, yeah, he was a very nice man.
it's interesting because I was there. I never got to meet either of those people, but they've been a part of my life, my whole life.
Hmm.
And it's interesting because I was there on the day that Emilio passed away. We
Yeah.
were on set, we were shooting, and that morning we had found out that he was sick, and that it was just a matter of time. We didn't know how much time it was. We didn't think it was going to be a couple hours, but
Hmm.
we just didn't know how much time it was. And I remember getting it was all secret, and we found out that he had passed away, and we were keeping it within the family, and Sesame was going to release a statement. And then I actually got a text from my aunt that it had she found on Facebook TMZ had already published that he
Mm.
had passed away, and I was
That's
like,
how I
oh,
found out too. From well, kind of from
wrote the story.
TMZ. Yeah, I was in Vancouver Well, I was there for my dad's work. I was going to my dad's work dinner, and I had some time to kill. So my mom and I went to the shops, and I pulled out my phone while I was waiting, and I saw on Instagram Emilio Delgado died, and I had just talked to him like a couple of days before that, and I was like,
Oh
this
man.
is not true. This is totally a lie. And then I saw it on TMZ, and yeah, I left the work dinner
Yeah.
early. I was like, I need to go back to the hotel room. I got in
Yeah.
touch with basically everyone I knew from Sesame Street because I wanted them to hear it from me first.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It was weird. And it, I remember telling the producers that TMZ broke the story, and it was just like it felt weird, but I knew that I needed to do it because they had wanted to put out a statement and they didn't know that TMZ had done it, so I knew that I needed to do it, but I was like, I feel like I'm inserting myself into a situation that I don't need to be, and then the whole day was just it was just a little somber, but it was filled with joy. It felt like a somber celebration of Emilio for the rest of the day that we were filming. Um, and it was actually the day we were filming the new insert for the theme for the
Mhm.
intro. That slow motion ending where now like Jiyoung and Tamir and Gabrielle are in that ending
Yep.
tableau for Sesame. It was just before that we found out he passed away, and then we had to go into
Damn.
that. And it was interesting because I was, of course, sad, but he was a part of my family and my life, but I was a part of. I'm here with his family, and I
Yeah.
never met him. And so they had a different connection, and so I felt so. It's an interesting place to be when someone who all of your friends knew really well, but you never got to know, passes away because now you're in the family that he was a part of, but you never got to meet him. So what do you do? How do you grieve with this? What do you say? So I sort of just decided, like, you know what, I appreciated him and I loved him, and I sat in the corner of the Muppet room and I listened to the stories because the day and well the rest of those days were, and even every time we go, always there's always a story to be told, not only about Emilio but also about Bob and especially about Carol.
Mm.
And you get to a point where you really do feel like you knew them a little bit, and though you never got to meet, you feel this sort of special connection with them that I appreciate and will always appreciate, and will never take for granted that I never got to work with these people. I met Carol one time, but
I was
he
wondering
wasn't.
that. Yeah.
I did meet him one time. We didn't get to work together, but it was at a convention, and he was a little tired that day, so he wasn't super verbal. But he gave me a bird feather, and I still have that bird feather. It's in my bookcase, and
Nice.
but I never got to work with him, and I never got to know the Carol that all of my friends talk about. So it's very special that these stories are continuing to be told and passed along to this new generation of puppeteers, so that I can then pass along those stories and the stories that I'm hearing today to the puppeteers who come after me. So I'm trying to my best to respectfully carry these little torches on, and continue these legacies. So
Mm.
yeah, it's an interesting situation, but I'm happy to be a part of it in the way that I am. Yeah.
Nice. Mm. And now you're doing one of the newest big stars of Sesame Street that we've been seeing a lot in new episodes. We actually don't have HBO Max here in Canada.
Oh, really?
But we have Crave, which is like a mix of
Okay.
HBO Max and Peacock. And like a lot of the shows from those networks are on Crave. But for new episodes of
Okay.
Sesame Street, they actually do air them on network TV here in Canada. And
Oh, cool.
oh yeah. What do we need streaming for?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean the new episodes end up going on Crave like later on, but yeah,
Okay.
I have seen quite a bit of Tamir on the
I've never heard
show.
of that.
Yeah, I think it's only in Canada.
And I'm on it.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
Tamir's cool. Yeah. What
So
was you
how
gonna
did
say?
you how I was gonna ask you, how did you get the part of Tamir?
Yeah. So as most people know, he was originally performed by Tel Bennett,
Yep.
who is great, just a great guy.
And for any of the listeners who don't know, watch the documentary Being Elmo, and you'll see like a
Watch Being
whole,
Elmo.
yeah, you'll see a whole segment dedicated to Tao aspiring to want to become a puppeteer, and Kevin
Yes.
Clash, the original Elmo, well, maybe not the original Elmo, but the man who made Elmo a star, basically mentored him. And then sometime after Kevin Clash left Sesame Street, Tao ended up joining Sesame Street. And I still remember feeling, oh my God, so proud right now when I
Yeah,
saw him in the
yeah.
credits.
So Tao originally performed Tamir. There we go. That's better. And it was super cool. And I remember like seeing the character and being so proud of Tao. Like he got a character, and that's fantastic. Like he's actually like speaking, and it's great. And then after COVID hit, and like there was a bunch of stuff being filmed from home, and then we were doing stuff in studio again, and Tao started to have some like scheduling issues and stuff where he couldn't really be coming into the studio as often. So on a lot of the days that I was there, we would do Tamir stuff as well. And so they asked if I was comfortable covering for Tamir, just covering the puppetry, and then Tao would dub it over from home. I was like, sure, yeah, that's not a problem. Let me make sure Tao's okay with it. So I texted Tao, and because we knew each other virtually.
Okay.
And so I was like, hey, are you comfortable with me doing the puppetry for Tamir? He was like, yeah, that's actually great. Thank you so much for asking. And so luckily on several of the occasions, he had access to the Zoom feed of what we were filming. So he was able to send me little notes on how Tamir would do these things and that thing and whatever. And then it just got to the point where, the scheduling issues were a lot, and Tao decided he wanted to focus on a lot of what he's doing now, which is, his stand-up stuff and a lot of his like self-made stuff, and so he's doing super well with that, but he decided I need to step away from Sesame Street in order to do that. So he stepped
That
away.
surprises me that because when I saw him in the documentary, he looked like he was totally ready to make it to Sesame Street. So it
Well, yeah.
surprises me that he would step away.
Well, it's one of those things where I feel like he got there so early, like he was so young, and he got to do exactly what he wanted to do. And I remember having a similar dilemma when I got there, which is like I really thought it was going to take me a lot longer to get to Sesame Street. So then there was sort of a thought of like, well, I did it, what now, right? And in my head, I have other visions for the types of things that I want to do, but a lot of those visions have to do with still being within Sesame Street. And Tao had this specific goal as well, and he also had other goals. So he's like, you know what? I've done it. Like, check, this is great. And I'm speaking for him, of course, and he can correct me. I could be wrong about some of this stuff, but he got to do it. He had a great time. He learned a lot, and then he decided, you know what, I'm gonna try a couple of other things and branch out a little bit more, because it was sort of all he had ever done. And so yeah, I believe he wanted to branch out a bit more, and so they held auditions, and he they offered me the part after the auditions, and I talked to Tao about it, and then we had a very long conversation when I found out he was leaving, and then also when I got the part, and just how to, what do I do, and what am I, all that stuff, and if he was cool with it, and he was like, yeah, 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 I was hoping it would be you. 'Cause we'd already developed like a really good relationship with each other and with Tamir, and so it ended up working out really, really well. And I didn't know Tamir super well when I first got him, but I got the part, and then about 3 weeks later, I had to be on set performing as a main character on the show. So I had to get to know Tamir pretty quick.
Hmm.
And so I was like, well, here's the thing. Tamir was Tao. Tamir is now me. So what can I bring from Tao that is like, really true to the character, and now, blossom him into me more. Something that's really true to who I am. And so I had this long list, and every day I was thinking, what would Tamir think of this, and how would this happen? So in my notes app on my phone, I have all these bullet points about who I think Tamir is, and then I had a meeting with the producers and Matt and some other writers, and talking about my vision of Tamir and who I think he is, and where I think I even pitched a couple of like episode ideas, and one of the episodes I think airs this season. I don't know if it's aired
Ooh.
yet, so I can't talk about it. But
For
it'll
season
air this season.
53 or the upcoming one?
54. Yes,
Okay.
54. So it hasn't come out yet, so
Okay,
I can't
cool.
talk about it. But
Okay.
there's one really cool episode that I pitched when I started in 53. um, and or that's based off of.
Okay.
And so then I had to just do it. Like it was real, like baptism by fire. Like, hey, here's a character, match the voice, do like as much as you can, and then make them your own. And you have 3 weeks, go, and before you're on national TV. And so I was like, cool, 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 cool. Yeah, no pressure. That's great. And so then I did it, and I was on set, and I was finding the character, through the season, and I watch episodes, and I'm like, ugh, now I know, like, I wouldn't have done it this way, and he would actually do it this way. But you live and you learn, and it was fun, and there was a lot of conversations, a lot of collaboration. Everyone was very encouraging and very, very wonderful, and helping me understand, like that things are actually okay. I shouldn't be like super hard on myself. And Tamir became something really, really fun. We found him. He's just this like awesome, weird kid, sort of, kind of dorky, kind of nerdy, a little comic book guy. He loves his comic books, and he loves watching TV, and he loves hanging out with his friends. And he's just an extremely grateful, like awkward little kid. But he's also 8, so he's the oldest kid on the street, and so we're starting to play with that a little bit more, sort of having him as a bit more of like a big brother sort of figure to everybody. But then I'm also playing big brother as the awkward version of me who like didn't really know how to talk to people. So like, how do you? It's fun. It's a fun dynamic to play because it's not the type of big brother that you usually see. And so he's been great, and he has taken me to so many places, and he's so much fun to play with, and he's so weird. Like the way that he's passionate about things is just so like he really, really gets into it, and everything in the world sort of goes away, and then he gets focused on his comic book, or he gets focused on playing pretend here, or he's focused on being helping out with Gabrielle's play over here, or whatever, like all sorts of just incredibleness that he does. And he like playing pretend with his friends and with his cousin Gabrielle, because that they put on shows in their grandma's living room like together, and she's the star and he's the one backstage, and I know that like that just like in the canon in my head, right? That's the kind of stuff that they do all the time.
Right.
So Tamir has been great, and I love him, and I love Wes, and they're two completely different little things. And they're just so. And now there's a Tamir plush coming out.
I
Like
saw that. Yeah, that looks pretty cute.
it looks cool. I can't wait. I think I get to have one in a couple of days because I'm going up to shoot some stuff.
Oh,
And
nice,
they have one of them, I think, there for me.
nice.
And it's just surreal because Wes was already a big deal for me, right? Like Wes, and Wes had already opened up so many doors for me, and then but Wes was never on the show,
Hmm.
and was never really like, planned for the show. He was planned for the communities and to be a main part of that. And then they give me Tamir, and Tamir's on the poster for the show. I was like, this is crazy. Like, this is
Jeez.
insane. Um, and so it was a big adjustment, and it was a lot of pressure. And the things that you can't think about when you're on set are all the kids that are watching, and all the kids that are going to feel represented by watching this character, and all of the adults that are watching, and all of the puppeteers that are watching, and the fact that this is going out to every country, and that you're being dubbed in other countries. And like, you can't think about that. You just think about doing everything that's right for this character, for the curriculum, for the show, and everything you can to like, keep him alive and keep the show rolling, right? Like just doing the best you can. Because it's a lot of pressure when you think about everybody that's watching. But it is truly an honor to have that sort of to have that on your back a little bit, like to know that what you're gonna do will affect a lot of people, and can really like becomes a part of people's childhoods the way that Elmo was a part of mine. Yep. Right? Like Tamir is now a part of some other kids' childhoods, and they're gonna have his toy, and he gets to be their friend like in their home, which is exactly what I was going for. Just I want Tamir to be somebody who's unintimidating, anybody can relate to, because everyone's got that thing. Like they're the Star Wars person, they're the Muppets person, they're the whatever. Like Tamir is that same person. Like, oh, I have this obsession, right? We can both be like so geeky about this. Like he's just that person. So
He
I'm
kind of
really happy
reminds
about.
me a little bit of Roosevelt Franklin and Kingston Livingston.
Yeah, if you look at Kingston Livingston, actually, um, they're the same color palette.
Right.
Um, I think what no, Wes and Kingston are the same color palette,
Hmm.
but but Kingston's like wardrobe is more similar to Tamir, and then like his nose is and
Yeah.
eyelids are the same color as Wes, and then but I feel like if I were to compare the two, it would be Kingston's close to Tamir,
Hmm.
close-ish, and then Roosevelt is closer to Wes because
Okay.
Wes is like that big ball of energy that just like
Hmm.
is always like fiddling with stuff, and Roosevelt was like the "Bah, bah, 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 bah," and he would like dance around into every room that he was in. Like I feel like that's
Right.
Wes 100%, and then Tamir is too awkward to really know how to do that, but he does like definitely love Kingston Livingston's like alphabet rap. Like if he had heard that, he'd be like, "Yeah, oh, I want to do that too," and then he would totally go into doing like the alphabet rap. Yeah, so I feel like that's how they would connect.
Mm.
But yeah.
And I love the friendship between Tamir and Ji Young that we've seen in the Tamir on the Street videos.
Yeah, and we're looking to develop that a little bit more because that really is just Kathy and I.
Hmm.
Where, like, because Kathy and I have, we're sort of going through this. Oh, here's a main character, like together, like sort of thing, and so we've found like a really nice bond, and that's something that we've explored and we're gonna have a little bit more fun with is sort of that relationship that they have of the push and pull, right? Because Ji Young is this firecracker and she loves to rock and roll and she's
Oh
on her
yeah.
skateboard and so
She's
she's
such
doing
a
all these
tomboy.
amazing
Yeah.
things. She's such a tomboy. Yeah, she's so great. And then Tamir is like, I'm gonna stay home on my computer. And Ji Young's like, no, let's go outside. I want to go outside and play the guitar. I want to go throw rocks at rocks. And Tamir's like, I think actually I want to play Pop Tropica or something like that. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Pop
so
Tropica, there's a throwback.
there's a throwback big time. So like it's always, Tamir's comfort zone is his computer chair and Ji Young's comfort zone is lying in a puddle of mud. And so they meet somewhere in the middle and that's where you get some really cool stories. And so I think we'll see more of that. But yeah, it's very obvious because we're both like so comfortable with each other. And that's how so many of these, puppet relationships happen. Is because of the relationships that are happening below the frame. And so Kathy's fantastic and she's wonderful, and so we have a really good time together. So we're hoping to develop that more. So I'm glad you like it already. I think
Hmm.
it's gonna get even better.
Yeah. So, do you have any favorite celebrities that you've worked with on Sesame Street so far? One that my parents really like is
Yeah,
Brett Goldstein because they're big Ted Lasso fans. And I
right.
still remember seeing Tamir in that video. My parents are like, "Who's that guy?" They'd never seen Tamir before.
That's not Ernie. Yeah, that. So that day actually was Tamir's. That was like my second day with a Tamir script. Like that was my first full script as Tamir. Is
Hmm.
what is the easier way to describe that. And it was Brett's first time working with the Muppets.
Hmm.
And as we know, as Muppet fans know, he's a huge fan of the Muppets. So I got to be the first Muppet that he ever worked with, and it was also my first time working with this Muppet. Like it was sort of a big parade of firsts there, and he was so sweet. He was so sweet. We had an amazing time. We had a whole bunch of fun. I was with him all day because I ended up being in every bit that he was in. If I wasn't as Tamir, then I was like Oscar's right hand, or I was like opening the lids when Big Bird walked by for that one video, or closing the lid. I was just like all over the place on that day. It was so much fun. But who else? Who else stands out? Brett Goldstein was fantastic. Lizzo
Hmm.
was great. Lizzo
Cool.
was so much fun. We did a couple things with her that are gonna come out soon.
Oh,
Um,
nice. My sister loves Lizzo.
I do too. I really do. I'm not even like a huge like current pop artist fan.
Mm. Same,
There's a
it's
lot of people
sort
that
of, sort of same to me.
yeah.
Like I,
I'm
I
like
listen, I listen to the Backstreet Boys, Simple Plan, Jonas Brothers, All
yeah.
Time
Well,
Low.
I do love the Jonas Brothers. Yeah, all time low. I So I'm just not super current, but there are certain things that always stand out, and Lizzo's one of those standouts. That's just, her music is incredible. It's incredible, and I've been a fan of hers for years. And when I heard that we were gonna get to do it, I'm like, please let me be in that script, please let me be in that script. And so I was, thankfully, and I was Cookie's right hand for the cookie flute video, which was actually really hard because I had to grab the flute while looking at the monitor, so I had no depth perception. So at one point I grabbed Lizzo's wrist and I was like, why does this feel so weird and soft? And then I was like, oh, that's not the flute, that's her wrist. And she was super cool about it. She's like, I didn't know I thought I was doing something wrong, she said. And I was like, yeah, no, it's fine. I couldn't find it. Anyway, so she was great. She was so much fun. She was so busy, but she was like, and she's such a huge Sesame fan, and she, only had a smile on her face that whole time we were working with her. But honestly, like, every celebrity that we have had has just been wonderful. They're great. They've been super fun. Dan Levy was super cool. That was the first time I started to like play around with the script a little bit more and do a little bit more like improv and throwing at each other and stuff like that. He made me feel very, very comfortable. So he was so much fun. Cal Penn was fantastic. Samuel L. Jackson was great.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he was great. Gosh, I understand now how some puppeteers are like, oh yeah, I forgot I did that, because we do the volume. We do so many things that it's hard to recall anything like sometimes.
Yeah, I recently did a little nostalgia talk retrospective on the Slimy to the Moon episodes of Sesame Street, just a whole video entirely dedicated to that. And I invited two past guests. Marty was one of them because he's slimy,
Lovely.
and also Lou, and another good friend of mine, Lou Berger, who was the head writer at the time of the Slimy to the Moon episodes. Yeah. And Lou was Lou remembered quite a lot of it. Like, I'd say to Marty, do you remember Snuffy's line in this episode? He's like, I don't.
Yeah.
So yeah, I totally get it, because like he's
Yeah.
doing Slimy, Telly, and Snuffy in all of those episodes for whatever the scene is. Yeah.
Yep. The volume of what you do becomes so much that it's like it's in your head one moment, out your head the next.
Oh yeah.
Because you have to move on to the next thing. And I've only been doing this for 2 years. So I can only imagine the folks who have been here for 10, 20, 30, 40 years who have, like, there are certain things that you remember and certain things that you just don't. And you can watch an episode for the first time, even though you're the main character in that episode. Like, you just don't remember anything, because it really is like we go so quickly. And even if you did just do Tamir and this one thing, now you're going to be Elmo's right hand for this, and then you're a banana over here. And so it's like, it's in one eye, out the other, right? Like, you read the script, you say it, good, okay, great, boom, move on to the next one. And then you go get dinner after. You go to sleep. That's really how it is. And then I'm like, oh, right, for completely, like, there's a video that just came out. Wes and Elijah, like, they were in the restroom or something, and they were like brushing their teeth and
oh yeah, Chris posted that to Facebook today. I saw that.
Great. Yes. So that one somebody tagged me in it, and I saw it. I was like, I remember watching it for the first couple of seconds of it. I'm like, was I not there for that? Did somebody else do Wes for that? I don't remember that at all. And then I was like, oh, wait. I remember this. I remember this little bit. And so I really was like sort of watching it for the first time. Like, hey, that's really cute. I have no idea when we did that. I barely remember doing it. That I was like, this is adorable. So I posted it. So I was like, cute. Yeah, it's just one of those things where it's like, you do so much that it all sort of goes out. But you have fun. That's the thing, is you're never not having fun. But there's so much fun to be had that you forget every specific moment of fun. But as far as standout celebrities go, yeah, Brett Goldstein was great. Cal Penn was great. Oh, gosh, there were just so many awesome people.
Cool. So let's move on from Sesame Street and finally get to the Muppets franchise, which is what I refer to the Disney Muppets as.
The Disney Muppets, yeah.
Yeah. Some people say the Disney Muppets. I say the Muppets franchise because, like, it's non-specific.
Franchise.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're both the same.
Yeah. So how did you get started in that? Because, like, you've gotten to do a ton of stuff with them now.
Yeah. With them, I've done a couple things. It was after... So I started performing Wes in January of 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And I got my first call to work with the Muppets in August of 2021, which was very quick.
I was gonna
But
say.
the first thing that I ever did, because I think they were starting to, they wanted to bring in some new talent, and I think it was Matt Vogel who recommended me to go to work over there and do some stuff. So they called me for a thing. It was supposed to be, yeah, it was like this Broadway live show thing called LC Fest, and what's his name was there? Darren Criss was there, and a couple of other people. Alex Brightman, who I'm a huge fan of. He played Beetlejuice on Broadway.
Wow.
Huge fan of his. Huge fan of his. I listen to his voice all the time in my ears because I want to play that part in a community theater role someday. Be Beetlejuice would be so much fun. But he was
Well,
there.
they've
And,
got Beetlejuice 2 coming out. Maybe you could have some kind of involvement in that.
oh yeah, we'll see. Let's do it. And so, but so yeah, there was some awesome people there, and they were like, yeah, we'll just have you. We'll bring you in as an assist, and just to see what's going on. And it was with Piggy. And so, I'd already worked with Eric before, so I wasn't too nervous about it. It's still just, my friend is just a different character. But the cool thing was, it was for an audience of 500 people, and you never get to do that when you're with the Muppets. You're really always in studio, and everyone's already met the Muppets, and so, it's sort of like you put it up, it's nice and fun and funny and super cool, and then you put the puppet down, and they go back in the Wrangler box, and then you walk away and go home. You never really get to see the final product or how people feel about the final product. So to perform something live with them, you get the live reaction, the live feedback is super cool. So when they announce Miss Piggy, and the audience goes whoa, it's super cool. So that's what happened. They asked me to work Elsie Fest and to assist with Miss Piggy. So that's exactly what I did, and I went, and I was just the right hand, and then Eric's arm got tired, so I did both hands for a second, and then he took his hand back so that he could do a special dance. And it was for this big crowd of people, and it was amazing, and then it was a good day, and then after that, they were doing The View to promote Muppets Haunted Mansion. Oh, because they roped me in, yeah, right in the middle of the Haunted Mansion sort of press tour. Mm-hmm. And so then we did The View, and so I was on The View with Miss Piggy and Kermit, and I was helping out with Piggy, and then it was fun. It was great. It was nice and simple. They did a little song, and Piggy's pretty easy to right hand for because you just sort of keep it still. And then I started doing more stuff specifically with Kermit. When Matt was doing stuff in New York, I was usually the person to do. I was often the person to do the right hand for stuff out there. Did the Michael Bublé Christmas special, which was super
nice.
fun. Yeah, that was so much fun. That was just a great time. Got to work with Michael Bublé, and he's a huge Muppet fan too. So he spent more time in our dressing room than he did in his. And so we were just palling around, and he was chatting with Matt, and I was still too nervous to say anything to anybody. But it was just so fun to be a part of that, and we filmed it at 30 Rock on the SNL stage. And I'm a huge fan of SNL, so that's always been a dream of mine to go there. So that was just Lorne Michaels was there. I saw Lorne Michaels there in person.
Holy shoot.
I know, it was amazing. And I get little paychecks every once in a while from Saturday Night Live because that was the production that paid us.
Right.
And so, so that's cool to see. But, yeah, I started doing more stuff with Kermit, and then Muppets Mayhem came up, and got to work a little bit on that show. I was there pretty consistently, actually.
Yeah, Bruce Lanoil came on this podcast after the Muppets Mayhem had wrapped up, and he said that, it was interesting to be around puppeteers he knew and puppeteers that were new to the cast. And he was like, okay, so in a room there was me, Art Vega, and another puppeteer whose name I can't remember. And the very next day, he messaged me, and he's like, I remember the puppeteer's name, Bradley Freeman. I feel so badly that I forgot that. Hi, Bruce, if you're listening.
Oh, I love him so much. He's such a good guy.
I'll send this to him.
Yeah, you please. Oh my gosh, B is just so sweet, and was so welcoming to to me, as a new puppeteer, just talking, and we were talking about our families, and we would have these chats outside of our trailers. A little umbrella up, with it sitting at a table during lunch, just these deep, not puppet conversations, just about our families and our family life and what's going on, and just all sorts of emotional vulnerability that we would just all go into, and art was always there as well. We would have a great time, and then the show was great too. It was so much fun to work on. So they invited me to go out to LA to go do that show for a couple of months. I was there, like, 1 week on, 1 week off, 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, sort of thing.
Jeez,
And
wow.
so I knew, but that show shoots different from Sesame. Sesame, you film, the whole episode in a day. The Muppets over 4 months shot 10 episodes, so it was shot a lot more like a movie. So what I knew of the show was very, like, out of context, like random. I didn't know what was going on. So watching the show was really cool. 'Cause
I was
I got
just
to
about to ask you
understand.
if you've watched it yet.
Yeah, I finally got to watch this. I actually watched it while we were doing the press tour for the show, because I was just really excited to watch it. So whenever I was sitting in the green room, I was like watching the show, and I was like, I saw a head. Everybody, look! We would all watch it. And my first time seeing the show was at the premiere. On the day of the premiere earlier, I got to see it earlier that day.
Cool.
And so it was just great, and I was like, oh my gosh, I want to see the rest of the show, like what happened. And so it's so funny to point out, like, it's again one of those things where, like, I know I was in this scene, I just don't remember what I did. I have no idea what I did for this scene, but I was there, I remember it. So that was always like a really fun thing to point out. But yeah, like that show was just so much fun, and I got to work with Bill Beretta for the first time, who I hadn't worked with, and Dave Goles, who I hadn't worked with, and him and I became good friends, and it was just like a special experience overall, especially getting to see those characters in person. And I did a lot of because I actually play the piano, so there were several instances, specifically like the finale scene at the Hollywood Bowl, where I was Dr. Teeth's hands for that. And so I was spending like a lot of time with Dr. Teeth because I was doing a lot of his hands. And so I got just it's so weird because I'm still a fan, right? So like, and they're just leaving. Bill's like also producing the show, so he's like, here, can you? He would take the puppet off, and I would grab the puppet from it. And he would go like talk to the director, and then I'm just like, why are they letting me hold Dr. Teeth? Like, this is crazy. So I'm just like looking at the puppet all around, and I'm like, this is amazing. I can't believe I'm here. And then I would go back to being professional or whatever. So
I heard David
that was
Rudman
just
once
so
tell
much
a
fun to
very
get to
similar
work up
story
close.
about that.
Yeah. I mean, you do really have those moments, right? Like I've had it before with Big Bird and with Elmo. I've had it before with Elmo a couple times where I'll do like put on Elmo for a photo or something because there's some guests here and Ryan's busy. And I remember talking to Ryan one time, and there was an Elmo that he had on, and I'm like, hey, what year is this Elmo from? He said, oh, it's from '98. I'm like, oh, you know. I'm like, that's the year I was born. I'm like, this is my Elmo. This is the one. Like, this is the one that I grew up watching. He's like, yeah. And so then I was just like looking at it, and I'm like, you just can't believe you're there. I had it one time with Kermit too. I'm like, I just can't believe. I just can't. I'm holding it. Like, I just can't believe that I'm here. And then you have to put the puppet back on and do some work. But yeah, it was pretty surreal working on Muppets Mayhem, because I grew up watching the Muppet Show.
Yeah.
And you see Animal there, and they're your friends now.
Yeah.
Zoot,
Hmm.
like that's Zoot.
Oh
There's
yeah.
never been another Zoot.
Yeah, Zoot is so
Um,
much more talkative in this show now, I think. And usually when
yeah,
he does talk, he acts totally dumb.
he's had more lines in this show than he's ever had ever.
Yeah.
And so it was
I just
really
love how
cool to
retro he
finally.
is too with that old camera at the end of every
Yeah, he's
episode.
got the Polaroid, and oh my gosh, it's
Well, I
great. And
actually collect old cameras. Like when
oh, you do?
when my grandfather passed away a few years ago, we went to because his wife died before he did, and so
Right.
yeah, well, she had Alzheimer's for a couple of years, really, really badly, and then he passed
Yeah.
away about a year after, I think.
Gosh,
And
sorry
so
about that.
the house basically had been empty for the longest time, and so it was like, all right, we're selling it. If there's any crap you want out of this house, get it. So they
Hmm.
found a bunch of old cameras, and everyone's like,
Oh,
hey
that's
James, do you
amazing.
want this? So I've got like 20 old cameras.
Dude, that's amazing. Congrats on that. That's actually, that's, you know what? There's a little bit of a silver lining. You get some those are really cool. I think those are really, really fun.
Yeah, sometimes I like to use them when I'm hanging out with my friends. Like I was with one of my really good friends last week, and I'm just making a lot of pictures look really, really old. So
Yeah, yeah. Oh gosh, that's great. I'm jealous. I would love one of those camera. I've been looking at buying one, so I'll look into that a little bit more now. But yeah, Zoot has had like a real they sort of figured him out. You can
yeah,
say, like he didn't talk much, and so now it's like, okay, well, we're gonna have a whole series, and he's gonna be a main character. So what is he? And that was basically it. Like he had sort of gone into the realm of being forgetful, and now he's in the realm of not only being forgetful but also being a bit surreal, and having his like shaman of a shoe, right? Like you remember that? Like I just think that's fantastic. And he's like, oh, I think who does he say? I think Elvis would make a good Zoot or something. He's like,
he's
Elvis
dead.
died.
What? When?
What? When? Like I just think that's great. Like he's just. I talked to Dave about it, where it's like Zoot. Physically, yeah, sure, Zoot's physically there, but mentally he lives somewhere else. Like he's not the kind of person who's like present in the moment, and he's just he became my favorite character on the show. He was so funny.
I think one of mine is probably Animal, because we get to see
Animal too.
we do get to see a little bit of a deeper side. Nora. My favorite is when he gives her the goat, and she's like, "All right, I'll take it." He looks at the goat, and he's like, "Bye, Darren." Like, so finally,
it was a Darren. Yeah.
Finally, we've established that the goat has a name. I wonder if that was ad-libbed.
Do I still have that? I think one of our rap gifts
was a goat.
Yeah, we all got a goat. No, I'm kidding. We got.
I was gonna say. That's a weird pet.
We got these buttons, and there were buttons that said like Team JJ, Team Moog, and there was one that said Team Darren. But I wasn't there on the day that Darren was there, and I was like, who is Darren? I had no idea. I wasn't there for any of those days. I was like, who is this? Well, now I love it, and now I can't find the button. But I do have a small button that says Team Darren, and that's the one I'm gonna put on my backpack.
Cute. People are gonna be like,
Darren
"What the hell?"
Yeah, the only button that I have right now is this Felix pin. I'm part of the Felix fan club. I haven't opened this yet.
That's funny.
So yeah, that's Mayhem was just so much fun. It was so much fun to be on set. It was so funny to get to see these characters like just form, and become really true to themselves, and they're all still very true to themselves, in their Muppet Show days. Like none of this rings untrue to who they originally were. We just get to see like a deeper side of them, and I know a lot of people were worried, like the Mayhem, like what are we supposed to say about them? We want to see Kermit and Piggy, but honestly, I just thought it was great. I've seen a lot of Kermit and Piggy. I barely missed them for this one. I was just like, I'm so invested in all of these characters. And then we get a really cool cameo at the end.
From Statler and Waldorf.
Yeah. That was super cool.
I was saying to Stephanie DeBruzzo the other day that adding depth to characters that we don't get to see a lot of, like we do with Dr. Teeth, and that might be my favorite episode, where Dr. Teeth's parents come and are like, "Oh, you've let us down so many times, Junior, right, Gerald?" Yep. Props to David Bizarro for being so funny with Gerald.
Yeah. He did amazing.
Yeah. He just had one line. I mean, I know that he ended up speaking full sentences, but most of his lines were, "Yep."
It was. He killed it. He did perfect. He did amazing. Stephanie DeBruzzo did just a beautiful job. And Bill did an amazing job too. I mean, I got to work with him really, really closely for a lot of that stuff, and just
because you were Dr. Teeth's hands, so
for a lot of that, for a lot of that episode specifically.
Oh wow!
And it was so like, because we had to learn how to play the harmonica with Dr. Teeth, and like the harmonica, his nose is like this big. And so it's the size of like a water bottle coming off of your nose, and so then like you have to put the harmonica under the nose, and as you sort of move the harmonica from side to side, his nose goes from side to side too, and it looks really silly. So you have to find a way to make it serious, but then also they're Muppets, so like you don't want to make it too serious, like it is silly just inherently. So finding that balance was really, really fun. But Yeah, that was just the performances in that, like adding the depth to these characters while staying true and keeping the silly but adding the heart is was ugh, Matt, Bill, Stephanie, David, amazing job. Did an
Yeah.
amazing job.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So to wrap it up, do you have any favorite celebrities from working on the Muppets Mayhem? There were
Um,
a lot that I was pretty surprised to see, but I was like, oh my God, that's so cool.
I would say Weird Al. We
No.
didn't film with him on the day. He
Hmm.
filmed in a different studio several months later, so none of us got to meet him until the premiere party.
Hmm.
Uh, and that was a dream come true. I am a huge Weird Al fan. I love all of his stuff. I know I love all of his original songs. I just saw him on tour on his ridiculously ill-advised self-indulgent vanity tour. It was actually the return of the ridiculously ill-advised self-indulgent vanity tour, and it's all original songs.
Oh
And so
wow.
it's like deep
Well, yeah,
cut Weird Al
well, yeah, he
fans.
was saying to Floyd, Floyd's like, says a guy who only writes parody songs. Hey, every album has at least one or two.
Yes, and I love all of them. And so and I love his polkas too. Oh my gosh. And and Matt is also a really huge Weird Al fan.
I
And
don't blame him.
so yeah, and so both of us, like, we heard he was going to be at the party and we were like, "What? We have to meet him. We have to." Neither of us had met him, and we had, like, that was something we talked about because after he did his thing on the show, I went to go see him live, and I texted him and I got him a pin and stuff because he didn't see him live that time. I don't know if he has seen him live. I'll ask him. And so I was like, "Come on, we just gotta go. We gotta." I'm like, "You have to help me. I need to go. We need to go say hi." He's like, "Okay, we're gonna go. We're gonna go." And we walked up together, and I'm like, "Hold my hand. Hold my hand. I need to." He's like, "No, I'm not gonna." So then he was like, Weird Al, Mr. Al, Mr. Weird. Um, so then, like, he introduced himself and told his story about his fandom, and I introduced myself and I told my story about how when I learned how to duplicate myself on iMovie, I recorded like a cover of Trapped in the Drive-Thru where I lip synced to both parts. It's a 9-minute song. I have the whole thing memorized, and I lip synced all of it, and it was so fun. And I got to tell Weird Al that, and he was so sweet. He was so sweet and, like, genuinely very touched to hear. Weird Al is part of, like, Tamir's character description because Tamir is a big Weird Al fan. Like, that's like something that I involved when I took him over. I'm like, Tamir's definitely a really big Weird Al fan.
Well, let's try to get the
And
two of them together.
oh please, oh my gosh, they can talk about their hair together. They have both have curly hair, and so Tamir's hair is tighter than Wow's, but still,
I was
it's
gonna
really fun.
say.
And so, yeah, we got to talk to him and took a picture together, and he took a picture with all of us in the Muppets, and just was so happy to be there and happy to be involved and genuinely one of the sweetest people. And yeah, there were a lot of people who went through Muppets Mayhem, like a lot of celebrities. So many of them, like, went through, recorded for 30 minutes, and then had to go because that's all the time that they had.
Mhm. What I
But
liked
getting to,
about it
like,
was that
yeah.
the celebrities, like there were some people from like the current times, like Sophia Carson, who I'm a huge fan
Oh,
of. So
really?
I'm a big Disney kid. Like she was in
Oh, cool.
Descendants, and
Oh,
I,
okay, okay.
yeah, actually I went to the D23 Expo a couple of years ago, and
Nice.
actually I saw the Muppets there. Like I saw Dave Goelz and Steve Whitmire was
Oh,
there,
cool.
Eric and Matt and Bill,
That's
all
awesome.
doing their Muppets. It was for the ABC show at the time from a couple
Oh,
of years
okay.
ago. I did not go to the D23 Expo this year, although I heard there was a lot of promotion for the Muppets Mayhem.
There was a lot of stuff. I
Mm.
wasn't there either, but yeah, there was a good
Yeah,
amount of stuff.
yeah. And at the one I went to, I actually saw Sophia Carson. Like I walked by
Oh,
her
cool.
and the Descendants cast. She's doing amazing stuff now. The
Yeah,
other
she's
one
doing
of the
great.
other celebrities that I was pretty surprised to see, and in a good way, because I'm also a big fan of, was Susanna Hoffs, because I love the
Oh
Bangles.
yeah, yes. I was just on YouTube earlier today. Like, I literally I opened up the app, and a channel called is Susanna Hoffs, right?
Yep.
Susanna Hoff's fan page. That was the name of the channel, and it said it was just like Susanna Hoff on Muppets Mayhem, and it was just like her clip. Like, that was it. Just the first thing that came up on YouTube today. So I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, that's great. Yeah, like the Bangles are super cool.
Yeah. I bet
So
filming for
yeah.
her that day was just another manic Monday.
Oh, you.
I
Oh,
have
you.
I have a Bangles cassette, and my friend gave me a Walkman this past Christmas, and I
You
sometimes
have a
listen to that.
Walkman?
Yeah, she gave me a couple of cassettes to go with it. Three Car Garage by Hanson and Backstreet's Back by the
Wow.
Backstreet Boys. So
Oh my
I've
gosh.
expanded my collection. It now includes not just that, but Bryan Adams, Phil Collins, All Time Low,
Oh,
Simple
good.
Plan,
Good
Bangles, The
stuff.
Offspring, Celine Dion.
You won at Phil Collins. That's good stuff.
Mm,
I love Phil Collins.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's all I've got here. Is there anything else you want to say to finish?
Watch Muppets Mayhem on Disney Plus.
Yep.
Watch
I
Sesame Street season 53.
Yep. I'm actually rewatching the Muppets Mayhem with my parents. Like I watched every episode
Oh,
within like a
good.
24-hour span. It's funny,
Yeah.
every time like a new season of a show or a reboot like comes on a streaming service and all
Mhm.
the episodes are released simultaneously, my friends place bets on each other as to how long I'm gonna finish it.
How long it's gonna take?
Yeah,
You can
like
finish
for
it faster than it takes to watch the series. You
well
can
for
finish it in
the
an
for
hour.
for the Fraggle Rock reboot, my friends are like, "Oh, he's gonna finish it in a day." No, he walks. James walks a lot. There's no way he's gonna finish it in a day. He likes to go get fresh air, and then finally
How
I
long did it
do
take?
a day.
Yep, that's what I thought.
You guys win, suckers.
Oh, that's good stuff.
Well,
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah,
thank
the Muppets. It's a good for a rewatch, so I'm
yeah.
happy you're enjoying it.
Well, thank you very much for joining me for the Big 6-0 of Nostalgia Talk.
The Big 6-0. Happy to be that was. I'm so proud to be the Big 6-0. I'll make a little plaque for myself.
Well, I'll probably just send it to you,
Yeah, send,
or
send me a
maybe
post-it that
or,
says 60.
or maybe get some merch. We got made it to episode number 60. Like
Yeah,
I have a Nostalgia Talk t-shirt, and my best friend mailed me this coaster from Scotland. She lives out
that's
there.
awesome.
I know, right? It's so spot on.
That's great. I like
Yeah.
that a lot.
Mm-hmm. And to all you listeners out there, if you're wondering, yes, there's lots of stuff coming up. This week, I am recording episode number 61. It's funny, on episode number 51, I was like, where do we go from episode number 50? We had, one of the OG Sesame Street puppeteers. Where do we go from there? And my
Yeah.
guest, whose name is Katie Von Till, who's a Disney voice actress. Speaking of, as you guys know, Katie does Snow White. Stay tuned because there's a good chance that maybe we're gonna hear from another Disney princess voice actress one day soon, maybe.
Wow.
So stay tuned for that. But as for stuff that is happening, you already know about JP Manu. I'm recording that in a couple of days. Craig Shemin, Keith Scott, who does Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, Bullwinkle, Carly Shiraki from the Sunny Side Up show. There's a ton of stuff coming, and also a ton of stuff coming that has not been announced yet. But you guys know where to go. Facebook.com/Nostalgia Talk YouTube. Link in the description. And I will see you then. Peace.